Maryland football has an upcoming gauntlet, but it is winnable.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you guys for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Maryland football has an upcoming gauntlet, but I do think they can actually win a lot of games in this upcoming gauntlet that the Terps have. So we all know we're 4-0 so far in the season, and we're feeling pretty good about ourselves. Let's be honest. We like where we are. We like what's happening with our team. We like Malik Washington. We like how the offense is played. The defense has done some good things. We feel pretty good. We've won a Big Ten game against Wisconsin. We're receiving votes. I think in terms of how I expected this year to go, I don't think I would have cooked up a better start. An honest, real, if we're being somewhat realistic, I don't know if I could have asked for a better start. You can always be unrealistic and be like, we blew everyone out, which we kind of have so far. But I think in terms of a realistic start, you couldn't really ask for a better start from Maryland football through the first 4 games. But that is still the easiest stretch of football we're going to have. 3 non-conference opponents that none of them were good really at all. Then this Wisconsin team wasn't very good either, winning that game 27-10. But of course, we've hit our bye week. And to be honest, I think the bye week is not at the best time. I think I would have rathered it after the Nebraska game on October 11th. So that's I guess I don't know if you guys would say that's 2 weeks or 3 weeks away. In terms of the college football season, that's about 3 weeks away. But we have our bye week this week. Michael Oxley's been pretty bad off the bye. It doesn't really feel like we need the bye yet, but at the same time, we don't get to pick and choose when the bye comes, or I don't get to pick and choose. I'm sure that's part of the scheduling that happens a while ago, but we do have our bye week, and so I'm not going to complain about having it. I do think we don't absolutely need the bye week right now, but I do think it is helpful before this tough stretch of games that we're going to have. And honestly, Maryland has an upcoming kind of gauntlet for the Terps, but there's a difference in this type of gauntlet. This is the gauntlet in the Big Ten where it's like, those are a lot of really good teams, but for where Maryland football is at with how they've been playing, it's an absolutely winnable type of gauntlet. It's definitely a couple of games that they're going to have the opportunity to win, but I do think it's some of the better middle-ish teams in the Big Ten. And so we play Washington on Saturday, October 4th. Washington football right now, one of the most interesting, intriguing teams in the Big Ten in terms of we don't know exactly how good this team is. They play Ohio State this weekend, tomorrow at 3:30. I'm sure a lot of you guys will kind of pay attention to that game. We know Washington State's played well so far this year. They had a big win against Washington State. Their offense is firing. The kid Williams Jr. looks really good. Their quarterback had 298 yards against Washington State, 4 touchdowns. He also rushed the ball for 88 yards and a touchdown. He looks like the real deal. And a lot of people are really high on that quarterback, as well as they beaten Colorado State, another good team. So they're going to be a hard team to beat. This Washington team is always frisky. They're always pretty good. I never really usually consider them elite. They've had some elite years. They made the college football playoff when they had Michael Penix throwing all over the place to guys like Roma Dunze. They've had some good teams, but they've always kind of been decent, it feels like, or pretty good over the last couple of years in college football. They're legitimately, to me, a top 25 type of team. And I think this weekend against Ohio State is going to determine a lot. And yeah, that's a big game against a team that's not going to be easy to beat. And I consider that as a gauntlet game, but Maryland absolutely can beat Washington. let's be honest, where this Maryland program is, how good we've been playing, there's no reason Washington at home is a game that's an automatic loss for Maryland football. That's why I was saying a winnable gauntlet. Like if we had Ohio State next, and then we played Oregon, and then we played Penn State, I'd be like, we have a gauntlet, but I don't know if it's necessarily winnable. Playing a team like Washington, a borderline top 25 team, I know they've gotten some votes. I know some people think they're a top 25 team, but playing a team like that, in my opinion, is a winnable type of gauntlet type of game. And I'm going to be paying attention a lot to how they play against Ohio State. And then you have another really interesting game for Maryland football against Nebraska. I just watched Nebraska. I watched them play against Michigan. Really interesting team Nebraska has. I think a lot of people would consider them a top 25 quality team as well. And they were ranked in the top 25. I think Nebraska is a pretty good football team. I think they have a good football team this year. The Michigan game was back and forth. They just couldn't pull it out. I think they were pretty even, though, with that Michigan football team watching it. I thought maybe Michigan was a little bit better. But one thing's for sure, man, the kid Dylan Raiola has taken another step up this year. He was obviously really talented last year, but I didn't really think he had put it all together. This year, it looks like the kid's put it all together. He's played really well. He honestly had a really good game against Michigan. That kid's throwing the football differently, Dylan Raiola is, and he went 30 of 41 for 308 yards and 3 touchdowns. I think those two quarterbacks playing Raiola and Williams back-to-back is going to be – that's when it's is this defense for real? I'm going to talk about the secondary a little bit later and how they've been one of the better groups in the country so far, according to PFF. Those two games are going to be are we legit, or is it just who we've played? And are we actually are we really the type of defense that we think we are? Are we really the type of team that we think we are? Because those two guys are really talented. So I think it's a bit of an upcoming gauntlet, but like a Washington, I think we can beat Nebraska. I think that's a harder one than Washington that's at home. But I think we'll have an opportunity to be able to win that game. I guess we get Nebraska at home as well, actually. So 2 home opponents, Washington, Nebraska, 2 teams that are fighting to be the upper middle class of the Big Ten, a Nebraska team that people thought could be a low-key type of team to be able to make the playoff. And I still think they might have the opportunity to be able to do that. Their schedule is actually really not that hard. And so I do think that game is going to bring a lot of interest for me and in terms of Maryland fans. And I think we're going to have the opportunity to be able to win a game like that, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be easy. So I think Maryland football is an upcoming gauntlet. There's some other games as well, but I mean, I'm really talking about those 2 games. UCLA on October 18th. UCLA's program right now, they're pretty bad, but then you play Indiana on November 1st, 11th ranked team. So we're starting to get into the thick of it. It kind of sucks. We don't have the game, so Monday I'm going to have to figure out something to talk about because we don't have a game this weekend. Maybe we'll talk about Washington's performance against Ohio State, gauge whether they're ready to play off, what's the kind of deal with them, how good are they actually, because that game will determine a lot. But it is kind of sad we don't have a game this weekend, but it's nice. Don't have to fluctuate feelings. Just watch some other teams play college football, and we don't have to worry about the Terps this weekend. But we'll see how some of the results come. There's some really good games going on this weekend, and I know you guys will be watching a lot of them. Maryland's 2026 class, I think, should get some commits and should get better based off of how the Maryland freshmen are playing. I'll talk about what I mean next. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move cultures, and keep the game forward. And this week's moment of moving the game forward is about Malik Washington. He's been redefining Maryland football. He's been putting us in an absolute awesome spot to win. And even if we lost, even if Maryland lost, Malik Washington doesn't seem like he's going to be the reason. Going at it no matter what, he's been looking like a star for Maryland football. And he keeps us moving forwards as fans for Maryland football. So when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Let's talk about the Maryland's 2026 class, which I think right now let's be honest, it doesn't come close to the Maryland 2025 class. It just doesn't. And it's a little bit upsetting to see because you want to start stacking good classes on top of each other. I think that's important for Maryland football to be able to do, to start stacking good classes. Like, you can't just have one good class. Obviously, I think the most compelling part of this team is Zion Ely, or this class is Zion Ely. We have 12 hard commits, so you wonder. I think Mike Loxley, if this year goes well, could dive into the portal really effectively as well. But I think Maryland's 2026 class is actually going to get a lot better. I think we're still kind of in the recruiting season for it. I think we'll be able to pick up some new commits because I think people are going to see how this Maryland 2025 class is playing and see how effective Maryland 2025 class is. And they're going to look and be like, hey, Malik Washington's throwing for 300 yards a game. I want to go play receiver there. Or, hey, Maryland's Zahir Mathis and Sidney Stewart are playing like some of the best pass rushers in the Big Ten. I'm going to go be on the defensive line there and make a difference. I think the way that our freshmen have been playing have signaled to other people that are, whether they're DMV players or not, you can come to Maryland. And I think the pitch is, if you're a DMV person, obviously you get to play home. I think the pitch is make an impact early because at a lot of programs, let's say Zahir Mathis went to Georgia, he wouldn't be making the same impact. Or Penn State, I think that was one of the schools he was considering. He wouldn't be making the same impact. Same with Sidney Stewart. Malik Washington, if he went to some of the other offers that he had, and I know he had some big boy offers, if he went somewhere like Penn State, he wouldn't be making an immediate impact. He wouldn't be sitting behind Drew Aller. Instead, he's got everyone talking about him. He's probably made a ton of money this year. Whether he wants to stay at Maryland or not, that's a different type of conversation. I'm not saying he's going to leave, but the reality is if you play really well, your price goes up, whether Maryland has to pay him more money or whether someone else will. And so I think that will speak to other recruits, and I think other recruits are going to be like, Maryland might be the place. Because right now, I do think this class just needs some depth, needs some oomph to it, needs some star power. We're obviously all in love with Zion Ely, and Zion Ely paired with Zahir and Sidney Stewart is going to be a sight to see. Because as good as Sidney Stewart and Zahir Mathis are, and right now I've said it, they're playing in an all Big Ten level. They're playing as good as anybody right now. Like there's not very many people playing better than those two right now. Like not many people in the country at all playing better than those two right now. And so if you look at how those two guys are playing, the level that they're playing at, Zion Ely is better than those two guys. And I don't mean to say that in like to negate what they are, to kind of not talk good about them, to not say they're not playing at some of the highest level we've seen from a freshman. Zion Ely's like on a different type of level. And so when you pair those guys together, that is going to be a crazy type of combo that we just haven't seen from Maryland football. And we're going to just bring out dudes on dudes. And I think that's going to be really cool for Maryland football to be able to have. But I do think the class is kind of incomplete right now. I think that's fair to say. I just think it needs to get better in different areas. Outside of Zion Ely, I can't say there's anybody in the class that I'm like, yeah, he's a guy that I feel really confident that he's going to make an impact pretty early on for Maryland football. Whereas the 2025 class, I could name about 5 dudes that I felt pretty good about making an impact. I felt good about Malik. I felt good about Zahir Mathis. I felt good about Jalen Gilchrist. I felt good about Bryce Jenkins, Messiah Del Home. And then obviously some other guys broke out like Sidney Stewart, like Carlton Smith, but I didn't expect them to play at the type of level that they're playing at. So I think some of that is interesting as well. So I am going to look for this class to get better. I think Mike Locksley should be able to get better. Right now it's ranked 70th in the country. Like that just ain't getting it done. And it's one thing to have a really good class, but if you want to be like a consistent top 30 team in college football, not even saying a top 25, just like top 30-ish team in college football, it can't just be one good class and we're good. It's got to be start to stack different classes. I'm not saying we need a top 10 class in the nation, but having a class around the 30th-ish ranked class, having some key 4-star, getting some of the DMV prospects, I think is important. But again, I think if Maryland football ends up having a good year this year, I think the transfer portal could be a lot where the bread and butter is made for Maryland football. So I think that's also part of it. I think that's also something that will continue to come true is the transfer portal next year could end up playing huge for Maryland football. So I think that's something else that will actually end up happening that really helps Maryland football overall. Let's talk about Maryland's secondary. The unit has been one of the best in the country according to PFF. What are my thoughts? Who's been playing well in that Maryland secondary? Let's talk about that next. Caffeine just got flavor upgrade. 5-hour energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrition. With 0 sugar and 0 crashes, what I love most about is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shot, and you can take it anywhere and get that boost when you need it. I always reach for my favorite flavor because it's refreshing and it gives me that quick lift before a busy day. I've been eyeing the new limited time flavors. They sound really awesome and that you guys should all try. Honestly, I love how fast it kicks in and that it's sugar-free, so I don't have to worry about crashing later. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-hour energy shots. Get your favorites you love or be bold and try something new in store and online at www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. It's almost the weekend, and it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on who delivered, powered by DoorDash. And just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For the Maryland Terrapins, my player is Malik Washington. He's been delivering in a big way for the Terps. He looks like one of the best freshmen in the country and continues to be a breakout star. And when the pressure was on, whether it was the Wisconsin game or any of the other games Maryland football has played, he's come through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't a fluke. Malik Washington is on a streak. And just like Malik Washington delivered for the Maryland Terrapins, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash streaks. You can save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday, keep the streak alive. Fill your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. So I don't know if you guys have realized, because I haven't really talked about it probably enough, Maryland's secondary has been playing at a really high pace, and I do expect it to slow down. Like, let's be honest. I expect it to slow down a little bit, but Maryland right now, PFF coverage grade is a 93.6, and that marks the lead in the nation, beating out all FBS, FCS, Division I and Division III football teams that are graded by PFF. The next highest graded team in coverage is USC is a 92.1. So I have a couple different things about this. I want to say there's just a couple of different ways to take this. One, it's a similar kind of take that I've had on it. I don't want to not give these guys credit, but we have to be honest. We haven't played very much of anybody in the first 3 games of the season. It's just not too hard competition. Like, I don't look at any of those games and I'm like, there's any reason for us not to have a top kind of coverage unit in the Big Ten from those different games and from those different opportunities. And you kind of are like, okay. And then the Wisconsin game, they didn't have a quarterback. Like, they just couldn't do anything right. But I do want to preface it by saying this. At the same time, I do think our secondary is really solid. And I said that before the season. I said I thought it was the best, or I thought it was our best type of unit for Maryland football this year. I thought it was one of our better units. And we have a more complete football team than I think I originally thought. But I do think it has been a really solid unit so far for the Terps. Lakai Rowland has been playing really well. He has one of the best individual coverage grades at a 90.4, which is the highest mark of any FBS corner. And then there's been other players that have been playing at a really high rate as well. I think Jalen Husky, he's been extremely good in the secondary, an 87.36 grade by PFF. I think he's one of our best players. I still think the switch for him to play safety has really helped him in a couple different areas in terms of right now in his college career, but also his long-term growth. Hopefully for him going to the NFL, making a lot of money, different things like that. I think playing safety really opened that up for him and opened up that ability. And he's a natural out there, knows what he's doing. He's made some big plays so far in the season for Maryland football. And then I think maybe the surprise, and I don't want to say the surprise, Kevin Humes is playing a lot better than he was last year. And you kind of, there's always kind of this thing where a player like Kevin Humes is a really good example of this, where his freshman year, he doesn't look great. Like a pretty high-level recruit for Maryland football in the secondary, plays a lot as a freshman, doesn't look that good, which is totally fair. I think everyone's like when a young player plays early in college sports, but they don't play particularly well, they're like, there's a reason they're on the field. Everyone expects a jump from that guy, but that doesn't always come. It just doesn't. And Kevin Humes is proving that it's going to come for him. It's come. He's played at a really high level so far this season. He's been one of our better corners, as well as Dante Joyner. Like, there's a bunch of guys firing. Messiah Delhomme has made some plays. Like, there's a lot of really good players playing in our secondary. Again, back to my point that I made earlier, though, it's going to be a real test when we play Dylan Raiola, when we play Williams Jr. That's when the real test comes on, and we're going to see a lot of what we're built on, how good we actually are, because those teams are going to throw the rock, and they're going to throw the rock a lot. And so that's going to be a really good example for everyone to see how good is Maryland football actually? How good is Maryland football throwing the ball for the Terps? I think that's going to be really interesting, and that's going to be something that we're all going to be watching out for Maryland football. But that's all we have for today. Thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps.